Uh-oh, Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
You know,
I think you need to say clearly what happened.
As far as what?
You and I decided we were going to take our space, and what happened? An entanglement?
Yes. Yes.
A relationship?
Yes, it was a relationship. Now,
Will Smith is the guy with the billion-dollar smile and the Midas touch who could release a movie on the 4th of July and fill theaters. He built his entire empire on one simple idea, being loved by everyone. But empires crumble. And sometimes, all it takes is one night, one slap broadcast live to the entire planet to show the cracks that have been spreading for years. That moment is now burned into our cultural memory. But here's the real question. Was the slap the thing that caused his downfall, or was it just the final push that sent a teetering empire over the edge? This is the story of how the king of Hollywood became an outcast, and how his career, marriage,
Will, who's the guy who beat you?
That dude right there.
All right, pal. I'm here to get the car.
Seems to me there's a small matter.
To really understand how big Will Smith's fall from grace was, you first need to understand how high he had climbed. Back in the late 1980s and early 1990s, he wasn't just popular, he was everywhere. He started out as the Fresh Prince, a young, charming rapper who teamed up with his best friend DJ Jazzy Jeff. Their music was lighthearted, fun, and most importantly, clean. While other rappers were rapping about street life, violence, and raw struggles, Will Smith was cracking jokes and telling stories that parents didn't mind their kids listening to. This made him stand out in a huge way. In fact, he and DJ Jazzy Jeff won the very first Grammy ever given for Best Rap Performance in 1989 with their hit Parents Just Don't Understand. That win wasn't just an award, it was a signal that Will Smith was going to be more than just another rapper. That likable, safe, family-friendly image became his golden ticket, and he used that ticket to land something even bigger, a sitcom. In 1990, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air hit television screens, and suddenly, Will wasn't just a rapper anymore, he was a household name. For 6 straight years, the show ran in homes across the world. Every week, millions of people tuned in to watch him play the street-smart kid from Philly living with his wealthy relatives in Bel-Air. The show was funny, full of heart, and it made Will's charisma impossible to ignore. This was the role that truly built the Will Smith persona, someone who was naturally cool, hilarious, but also capable of pulling out emotional performances that hinted he was meant for something even bigger. When he finally made the leap to Hollywood movies, his rise wasn't slow at all, it was lightning fast. In 1995, he starred in Bad Boys alongside Martin Lawrence, and together they became international action stars. Just 1 year later, Independence Day hit theaters, and Will Smith became the king of the summer blockbuster. That movie was so huge that people literally started calling him Mr. 4th of July. Because it seemed like every time he released a movie around that holiday, it turned into a massive hit. And he didn't stop there. In 1997, Men in Black came out, and it was the perfect combination of action, comedy, and Will Smith's signature charm. He even rapped the theme song, which turned into another worldwide hit. By this point, it felt like everything he touched turned into gold. The late 1990s and early 2000s were basically the Will Smith era. The hits kept coming. Enemy of the State, Ali, I, Robot, Hitch, and I Am Legend. Each of these roles showed off a different side of him. Action hero, romantic lead, or serious dramatic actor. He wasn't stuck in one lane. He was dominating in all of them. And when he starred in The Pursuit of Happiness in 2006, not only did audiences fall in love with the story, but his performance also earned him his first Oscar nomination. Will Smith's movies made over $10 billion at the box office worldwide. But the money was only part of the story. What really mattered was the image he built around himself. He wasn't just a star, he was Big Willie, the ultimate entertainer. But it wasn't only his career that people admired, it was his life off screen too. He married actress Jada Pinkett in 1997, and together they raised a family that looked picture perfect to the outside world. Their kids, Jaden and Willow, were talented, creative, and already stepping into the spotlight at young ages. For years, they were seen as one of Hollywood's strongest families, a kind of blueprint for how to balance fame with family life. This wholesome image made Will stand out even more in an industry known for scandals, affairs, and messy breakdowns. While other stars had their names dragged through tabloids, Will's name was attached to positivity and reliability.
This mission has reached abort criteria. I take full responsibility. You did your best. You have nothing more to prove. Now return to the ship.
What was your mistake? Trusting me? Depending on me, thinking that I could do...
For a guy who had built his entire brand on being a guaranteed success, the first big crack in the armor didn't come from a scandal or a personal issue. It came from a movie. In 2013, he starred in After Earth. On paper, it should have worked. It was a big-budget science fiction movie, directed by M. Night Shyamalan, and starring one of the biggest actors in the world. Normally, that combination would have been a recipe for another smash hit. But there was one big difference this time. Will wasn't the main focus. The film was designed as a launchpad for his son, Jaden Smith. Instead of seeing it as another Will Smith blockbuster, audiences saw it as a vanity project, a father trying to use his power to force his son into superstardom. And people didn't buy it. After Earth wasn't just a flop, it was a train wreck. Critics tore it apart, calling it boring, stiff, and self-indulgent. The movie was mocked online and in the press. More importantly, it bombed at the box office, a shocking outcome for a star who used to guarantee blockbuster numbers no matter what. For Will, this wasn't just another movie failure, it was personal. In his 2021 memoir, Will, he even admitted that After Earth was the most painful failure of my career. It stung so deeply because it wasn't just about his career, it was about his family. The one thing he prided himself on the most, his ability to win, had finally collapsed. The fallout from After Earth marked a turning point. The once invincible armor around his image was pierced. Suddenly, people weren't so sure about him anymore. The magic touch was slipping. The next few films didn't help much. Focus in 2015 was decent and had some buzz, but it wasn't the kind of box office powerhouse people expected from him. Then came Concussion in 2015 as well, a serious drama about brain injuries in the NFL. His performance earned him critical respect and even award nominations, but the movie itself failed to make money. And then there was Gemini Man in 2019. The idea sounded exciting. Will Smith facing off against a younger CGI version of himself. The technology was cutting edge, the trailers looked slick, but when the movie hit theaters, it fell flat. Audiences weren't impressed, and critics weren't kind. Worse, the movie lost the studio around $75 million. It wasn't that Will Smith had stopped being a star. He was still one of the most famous faces in the world, but his pull wasn't what it used to be. The movie industry itself was changing. The era of the movie star being the main reason people bought tickets was fading fast. Instead, audiences were now showing up for superheroes, sequels, and giant franchises. Back in the 1990s and early 2000s, Will Smith was the franchise. His name alone could carry a movie. But by the late 2000s and early 2010s, that wasn't enough anymore.
Me, that was the thing when Og first came around, he was really sick.
He was really,
know?
really sick, yeah.
And the outpouring for him from our family was initially about his health.
Yeah. And I mean, we found, and from there,
Yeah.
and we decided.
I was done with your ass.
Yeah, you kicked me to the curb.
I was done with you.
Yeah.
Marriages have that, though. Marriages have that.
Yeah,
we decided that we were going to figure out how to make yourself happy, and I'll figure out how to make myself happy.
Well,
I really felt like we could be over. And then what did you do, Jada?
Well, I think from there, as time went on with August.
I launched into an interaction. What do you feel like?
While Will's career was taking hits on the big screen, something far more personal and ultimately more damaging was happening in full view of the public. For decades, the Smith family's brand had been just as important as Will's movie career. They weren't just celebrities, they were Hollywood royalty, a power couple, a family that seemed to have it all: fame, talent, money, and stability. But starting in 2018, that carefully built image began to unravel, piece by piece, thanks to Jada Pinkett Smith's new Facebook show, Red Table Talk. The show was pitched as a place for raw, unfiltered conversations, and it definitely lived up to that promise. Week after week, the Red Table became a stage where the Smiths aired their personal lives in front of millions of viewers. Nothing was off limits. They talked about parenting struggles, trauma, addiction, and most shockingly, the struggles in their own marriage. Even Will himself showed up for some episodes, at times looking broken, admitting on camera that he and Jada had gone through dark, painful moments in their relationship. This level of honesty was bold, but it came at a cost. On the one hand, it gave them control over their own story. They weren't waiting for tabloids to break the news, they were telling it themselves. On the other hand, it destroyed the flawless image the public had believed in for so long. The man who had spent years presenting himself as the perfect husband and father, the symbol of stability in a messy industry, was suddenly exposed as someone whose marriage was crumbling. The mystique was gone. In its place was oversharing that made many fans deeply uncomfortable. And then came the bombshell moment that took everything to another level. In July of 2020, rapper August Alsina publicly claimed he had been in a relationship with Jada, one that Will had supposedly approved of. The rumor alone sent the internet into a frenzy. Instead of denying it, the Smiths decided to address it head-on at the Red Table. That's when Jada, sitting directly across from her husband, admitted to having what she called an entanglement with Alsina while she and Will were quietly separated. The word itself, entanglement, instantly became a meme, and the clip spread like wildfire online. But what stuck in people's minds even more than the word was the image. Will Smith, sitting there with glassy eyes, looking exhausted and hurt, listening as his wife described her relationship with another man. That single moment did permanent damage to his public image. For years, Will had been the confident, untouchable superstar. Now, he was a meme, Sad Will, and the internet never let him forget it.
Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right? That was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
The final nail came in 2022, the 94th Academy Awards. This was supposed to be Will Smith's crowning moment. After decades of being one of Hollywood's biggest stars, He was the clear frontrunner to win Best Actor for his role in King Richard. The movie had earned him some of the best reviews of his career, and many believed this was the night he would finally cement his place as one of the greats. Instead, it became the night his legacy took a permanent hit. Chris Rock was on stage to present an award. As comedians do, he cracked a few jokes to warm up the crowd. Then he turned to Jada Pinkett Smith, who was sitting next to Will in the front row. Smiling, he said, "Jada, I love ya. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it." He was joking about her shaved head, comparing her to Demi Moore's buzzcut character in G.I. Jane. What many people didn't know, or still debate, is whether Rock was aware that Jada had publicly spoken about her struggle with alopecia, an autoimmune condition that causes hair loss. The cameras caught the moment. Jada rolled her eyes, clearly unimpressed. Will, however, laughed at first, just for a second. But then, something shifted. Maybe it was the look Jada gave him. Maybe it was years of pressure boiling over. Whatever it was, in just a few seconds, Will's mood flipped. What happened next didn't feel real. Will Smith calmly stood up, walked onto the stage in front of the world's most glamorous audience, and slapped Chris Rock across the face. Chris Rock stood frozen, blinking in disbelief. "Wow," he said, breaking the tension. "Will Smith just smacked the S out of me." The audience laughed nervously, unsure if this was a planned bit. But the truth came seconds later when Will, now back in his seat, shouted at the top of his lungs, "Keep my wife's name out of your effing mouth." Rock, still stunned, tried to keep the show moving, but Will screamed it again, angrier this time. "Keep my wife's name out of your effing mouth." At that point, everyone knew this was no joke.
Name out your mouth.
Wow, dude.
Yes.
It was a G.I. Jane joke.
Keep my wife's name out your mouth.
I'm going to, okay? Okay. That was a greatest night in the history of television. Okay.
Less than an hour later, Will Smith returned to that same stage, this time to accept the Oscar for Best Actor. Instead of the triumphant moment he had dreamed of, the world watched a tearful, rambling speech. He called himself a vessel for love, spoke about protecting his family, and apologized to the Academy. But notably, he did not apologize to Chris Rock. Around the globe, viewers weren't talking about Will's Oscar win. They weren't celebrating his career milestone. They were replaying the slap over and over in disbelief. In a single night, his crowning achievement had been overshadowed by a shocking outburst that instantly became one of the most infamous moments in live television history. The aftermath was chaos. The slap was all anyone talked about. The reaction was fast and brutal. A few days later, Smith gives a formal public apology to Chris Rock, calling his own behavior unacceptable and inexcusable. He resigns from the Academy. The Academy then bans him from the Oscars for 10 years. The slap was a catastrophe for one reason. It was the total annihilation of the Will Smith persona. After the Oscars slap, Hollywood began to quietly back away from Will Smith. Studios didn't want the controversy attached to their projects. Netflix, which had been developing a big-budget thriller called Fast and Loose with him, suddenly hit pause. Other movies he was attached to stalled in development. For the first time in his career, Will Smith wasn't a safe bet. He was a risk. When his first major film after the slap, the slavery drama Emancipation, came out in late 2022, the reaction was telling. The movie had serious subject matter and a heavyweight director, and Will's performance was strong, but the release barely made a ripple. Critics were lukewarm, audiences didn't show up, and the awards buzz that might have followed an actor of his caliber simply wasn't there. The slap hung over everything, overshadowing the work. The damage to his public image wasn't just emotional, it could be measured. Q-Scores, a company that tracks celebrity popularity, reported that Will's positive rating fell off a cliff. One poll showed his favorability dropped by over 30 points, a stunning collapse for someone once considered one of the most universally liked stars on Earth. His apology videos, interviews, and statements were torn apart online, with many people saying they felt staged, awkward, or too late. He was caught in a strange place, still too famous to vanish, but now too toxic for a lot of people to embrace. Then, in October 2023, another bombshell hit that made the whole situation even stranger. While promoting her memoir, Jada Pinkett Smith revealed that she and Will had actually been separated since 2016, 6 years before the slap. For all that time, they had been living largely separate lives. The red carpet appearances, the social media posts, even sitting together at the Oscars the night of the slap. It was all essentially a performance. Jada even admitted that when the slap happened, she was just as confused as everyone else, because she hadn't thought of Will as her husband in a long time. The revelation added a whole new layer of sadness and discomfort to the story. What people had believed for years, that Will and Jada were the ultimate Hollywood power couple, wasn't real. It had been an illusion they worked hard to maintain, and by the time the truth came out, it felt like the weight of keeping up that image had broken them both. All of this, the slap, the marriage revelations, the fading career, created new pressures. Financially, Will Smith is still wealthy, but the massive $20 and $30 million paychecks that once rolled in regularly slowed down. Maintaining their expensive lifestyle and sprawling properties suddenly looked less secure. Reports came out that the couple had been downsizing, even selling off some of their real estate. The empire wasn't collapsing, but the shine was gone.
How did you let him catch you?
He's sneaky as hell, Mike.
Your wife and I were having a debate. She seems to have an inflated impression of you.
Mike.
Hey, babe.
Nevertheless, this is...
In Hollywood, comebacks are practically part of the culture. This town has forgiven worse sins than a slap. If the money's right, the door opens again. And in the summer of 2024, Will Smith finally got his shot at redemption. Bad Boys, Ride or Die. To almost everyone's surprise, the movie crushed it. It opened bigger than analysts predicted, hauling in more than $104 million worldwide in its first weekend. For Smith, it was the kind of win he desperately needed. Audiences showed up, cheered, and laughed along with him and Martin Lawrence. For a moment, it felt like the old days. Suddenly, projects that had been collecting dust started to stir again. Hollywood loves a proven box office draw, even a controversial one. But was this the start of a real comeback, or just a nostalgia-fueled exception? Bad Boys had everything stacked in his favor: decades of goodwill, a loyal fan base, and the easy chemistry with Martin Lawrence. The franchise practically sold itself. That doesn't mean audiences are ready to forgive and forget when it's just Will Smith standing alone on the marquee. So, what do you think? Can Will Smith ever truly make a full comeback, or is the damage permanent? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more deep dives into the rises and falls of Hollywood's biggest names, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell.